The moment I stepped into that hotel ballroom, a heavy weight settled over me. It wasn't the hum of conversation, the clinking of champagne flutes, or the polished smiles of people trying too hard to impress. No, it was her, Claire, my wife of 8 years, the woman I had trusted with every vulnerable piece of myself. She was just a few meters away, her lips pressed firmly against another man's. This wasn't a fleeting, drunken mistake one could excuse as confusion in dim light. No, this was deliberate. Her hand rested on his chest, as if it belonged there. Something inside me fractured in that instant. Not loud, not explosive, but quietly, like a crack spreading through glass. I didn't yell. I didn't storm off. Instead, I walked forward slowly, every step heavy, every breath tight. When I was close enough that my words wouldn't have to fight against the hum of the crowd, I spoke. You just ended our marriage. My voice was steady but sharp, slicing through the air. Claire froze. Blood drained from her face. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. The man beside her, a tall, impeccably groomed executive I vaguely remember from photos she'd once shown me, immediately recoiled. Panic flashed in his eyes. He didn't defend her. He didn't defend himself. He simply melted into the crowd like a shadow trying to disappear. But Claire, she turned to me, eyes wide, and whispered 2 words that shook me more than the kiss itself. You're wrong. Those words echoed in my mind as we drove home in silence. The only sound was the hum of the engine. My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. Gripping it like letting go would mean collapsing. Claire sat beside me, distant, staring out the window like a stranger. Finally, I asked, voice low but edged with fire, "Who is he?" She hesitated, twisting the strap of her clutch in her hands. "It's not what you think, Daniel." I almost laughed at how cliché it sounded. Now what I think. I had seen her lips on his, her hand on his chest. I had seen the look in her eyes. The look that once belonged to me. Then explain it. I said, steady but burning inside. Because from where I stood, my wife was kissing another man at her company gala. Explain how that is a betrayal. She exhaled, breath shaky. Her excuse practiced. It was a mistake. He leaned in. I didn't. Claire, I cut her off. I saw your hand on his chest. Her silence after that was louder than any excuse she could have offered. The days that followed blurred together, filled with half-truths and flimsy rationalizations. She repeated that it just happened, that it was a moment of weakness, that she wasn't thinking. Yet when I asked her to cut ties with him, she refused. His name was Ryan, her team leader, the man she'd been traveling with for work for months. Suddenly, late nights, carefully chosen outfits, the laughter over texts she never shared, all made sense. I wanted so badly to believe her, to convince myself it had been a one-time mistake. But deep down I knew better. That kiss wasn't the beginning. It was the unveiling. One evening, while she showered, her phone charged on the coffee table. My hand hovered over it. My conscience screamed not to snoop, but another voice whispered, "She already broke the trust. If there's nothing to hide, you'll find nothing." I opened it. The truth stared back. Dozens. Then hundreds of hidden messages in what looked like a harmless work chat. "Miss you already. Last night was incredible. Can't wait for our next trip." Photos, selfies, private jokes. A life I'd never been part of. My stomach churned. By the time Claire walked in, robe loosely tied, I was sitting like a ghost, her phone in my hand. "Daniel," she whispered, pale. "You went through my phone." I met her eyes, voice quiet but firm. I went through the life I thought I knew, and I found the truth. That night we didn't speak. We didn't share a bed. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying 8 years of marriage, our vows, the home we built, the future we planned, wondering if it had ever been real, or she had simply become someone I no longer recognized. The next morning, I packed a bag and left, not out of rage, but because staying meant letting pain fester into something darker. She sent texts all day. Apologies, please, explanations. "I love you, Daniel." It didn't mean anything. He's no one. You're my husband. But betrayal doesn't need the other person to matter. It's the act itself that poisons everything. A week later, she showed up at the small apartment I had rented. No makeup, no perfect presentation, just Claire, raw and red-eyed. "Please, can we talk?" she asked. I let her in. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, separated by a distance no leaning could bridge. "Why him?" I asked. Tears filled her eyes. "I don't know. We spent so much time together." He listened. He made me feel seen. I clenched my jaw. "So I didn't," she added quickly. "That's not what I mean. You're a good husband, Daniel. I got lost." I studied her, searching for the woman I once loved. But lost wasn't forgetting an anniversary. Lost wasn't building a secret affair. In that moment, I realized something. She wasn't crying because she lost me. She was crying because she got caught. The divorce didn't happen overnight. A part of me, maybe the naive part, hoped she'd fight for us. But her attempts were hollow. Flowers, messages, empty words. Never the hard choices. Never true honesty. Never cutting him off. I called Ryan once, from an unknown number. "You ruined my marriage." I said, "Look, man, it wasn't serious." "She's the one." I hung up before he could finish. Not serious. As if that made it any easier. As if reducing my wife to a fling dulled a knife in my chest. Months passed. Papers were signed. Friends took sides. Her family begged me to forgive her, to remember the good years. But forgiveness isn't something you hand out to make others comfortable. 6 months later, I ran into her at a coffee shop. She looked worn, thinner, dimmer somehow. "Daniel," she said softly, "I just wanted you to know I ended things with him. It's over." I nodded. "Good for you." She looked at me, hope flickering in her eyes. "Do you think we could ever?" "No," I said gently, "because the night I caught you, I didn't just lose a wife. I lost a version of you I could trust, never to put me in that position again." Her eyes welled, but she didn't argue. She just nodded, whispered, "I'm sorry," and walked away. A year has passed. The pain isn't sharp anymore. It lingers like a scar, quiet but ever present. I've started dating again, slowly. I don't check phones. I don't demand constant explanations. But I carry the memory as a warning. Trust, but not blindly. Sometimes I replay that night in the ballroom, the music, the crowd, the kiss. I remember my words. "You just ended our marriage." And her reply, "You're wrong." She wasn't wrong because we stayed together. We didn't. She was wrong because she thought denial could erase betrayal. Once someone shows you who they are in the shadows, you can never see them the same way in the light.